What's up, guys? It's Chris. This will probably end up being the final video I actually do about DBD. Who knows? I don't want to say anything for sure, but the plan is to take this channel in a completely new direction, as you can probably tell by my new profile picture if you noticed it on YouTube. I'm going to be turning this into a League of Legends channel and teamfight tactics. So before we do that, though, I wanted to go over some of the problems I had with DBD through watching some of the other bigger creators in DBD talk about their experiences with the game. So here is a guy called QuietKills talking about DBD is 100% cooked.
It didn't take me very long to be reminded where exactly their priorities reside when it comes to their game and its community, specifically in regards to the pretty blatant neglect they've shown towards the killer side, especially as of late.
Oh, I mean, as of late, as of always, this is their model. They know the majority of the player base is Survivor, so they cater to that.
Inability for behavior to resonate with and acknowledge the issues coming from both sides of the player base at one time. Let me show you exactly what I mean when I say this.
So the first question people might ask is, why are we doing these things? Why are we looking at these strategies that people employ to play the game? It's quite simple. Face camping, tunneling, and slugging were in the top 5 reasons for people uninstalling the game.
Now, again, with this, I just want to say right now, people uninstalling the game for this are terrible. And I will say, while, you know, the face camping thing is probably not the most interesting, I don't think it's even close to fun on either side. I just don't, personally. But there's people who find it fun. Anyway, this is literally impossible to do now. There's tons of stuff to counter slugging. There are tons of things to counter tunneling. And just improving at the game, there's a lot of ways to play around this stuff by just doing gens. So if you're realistically complaining about this stuff in 2025, you're probably a noob.
And
you were probably just not going to play the game long term anyway.
We want the game to last long. So to make sure that that happens and that the game can keep going as long as it can, we have to address the issues that people have, or the players have, with within the game. So face camping, slugging, and tunneling are 3 of the issues that we have to address.
Now, this initiative is totally understandable, and though I personally feel these are valid and oftentimes necessary strategies, as they tend to be the most efficient methods to employ in order to win.
Okay, so again, why on the other side are they not? Yeah, look at this. Why are they not touching any of the most efficient ways for survivors to win? Ever. This is the problem. This is exactly my problem with it.
Especially within the current meta of the game, they are all still undoubtedly harmful to the overall player experience.
Oh,
if
yeah.
they're causing many newcomers to leave, they should certainly be addressed. But there is a major flaw in the way they actually gathered this information. This is the survey one is presented with when uninstalling the game, and the devs themselves admitted that this is the data they use to make such conclusions as to why players are leaving. But as you can see, the only role-specific gameplay-related options for quitting the game are killer actions and behaviors, such as their...
They don't even list things to do with Survivor stuff. They put character perks are unbalanced, but they don't say Survivor. Nothing to do with Survivor specific. They skewed it completely towards killer, meaning they had already set it up to say that killer is the side that is making people quit.
Abilities or add-ons being too strong, or playstyles like tunneling or camping. There is nothing explicitly related to these specific issues a killer may face throughout playing, or the reasons they may be uninstalling. This form of data collection is essentially totally biased and rigged to make survivor frustrations and complaints top priority, and whatever issues killer players would have would need to be typed manually and separately. This is absolutely not how you gather and measure statistics and data.
Yeah, and he's 100% right. I'm going to move on to a different video now, but this is just another example of behavior clearly catering to one side on purpose, because they care much more about them than they do your fun if you play as a killer. They just do, and they always have, and that's why the game has always been set up for survivors to be the power role, especially if they're even half decent at the game. Now, when they're completely brand new, they're probably going to lose, but they are set up for success across the board. Now, we're going to take a little bit of a look at the Scott Jun video.
Hey guys, Scott here. The whole point of this video is to prove how Dead by Daylight is a game designed to make people as miserable as possible. When I say that, I don't really mean that like...
And generally, I do believe this is true. I don't believe there's any part of Survivor that actually is stimulating in any way besides being chased by the killer. The gens are completely mindless, and other than that, you're just walking to another gen, right? Or like holding left click on a teammate to heal them. It's nothing interesting about it. And on killer, you have to sit there while the survivors have to put in basically zero effort to complete their objective, maximally exerting yourself against perks that just play the game for them. It can be very miserable on both sides.
The developers sat around a conference table smoking cigars and like, all right, let's just make people as miserable as possible. Like, this is not an intentional thing where we're at with the game. I just wanted to be clear. I don't think this is something they ever like intentionally did. It's just a side effect.
I mean, there's no world a company would sit there trying to kill their game. Now, a lot of the decisions they make do seem that way, but there's no world a company would actually be trying to kill their game.
Way the game has been balanced and designed over the past 10 years. So there are three main tenets to this, and they all kind of build up to a central point that I want to get to. The first of these main tenets is the map design.
The thing is, too, they have a ton of veteran players, including me when I was really, really playing DBD, that would voice things that they needed to do with the maps to not make them miserable for either side. And you would think after a decade of creating the maps, they'd be like, oh, this is a map people say works really well. And, oh, the stats back that up, so I'm going to make a map designed like that. But then they go ahead and make a map with 30 pallets on it that is the biggest map in the game, and you're like, oh, they don't understand anything.
Perk balance. Now, you might think perk balance is not as big of an issue because with the maps, you can't really...
It's a massive issue, and again, the biggest issue is they will balance perks on one side and not the other intentionally. They will see perks be used for a literal decade on the survivor end and not touch them, but if they're a little too strong for a month or two on the killer end, they're gone.
Because perks basically exist to band-aid problems with Dead by Daylight. That's just simply how they've done it. Perks are just things that you can equip on your killer.
Right, and again, it's the thing I really don't disagree with them here is tunneling being a problem, right? Like, at that point, you would have to say survivors doing gens together is a problem because they're trying to get their objective done very quickly, you know? So it's not, ultimately, it's just not a very fair argument there, I would say. But that is a tendency from behavior to band-aid fix problems without actually addressing the root cause. And again, I don't think tunneling here is the root cause like he's trying to say. I think how powerful survivors are and how incentivized killers are to try and kill someone is the actual root problem. If they would incentivize spreading things out in the base game, it's a completely different thing. Now, again, so he's close to the root cause, but not quite there, in my opinion.
It's the kind of matchmaking where you can have one game with people that are nearly impossible to beat and another game right after
It's terrible.
where they have no idea what they're doing. And there's just no way to understand what you're going to get. And that's because the way that the system determines skill is absolutely terrible. For survivors, it's counted as a win if you simply escape the match. Nothing else matters. Meaning if you ran the killer...
So I do want to say, even though he's right on these 3 points, he's not even addressing the core gameplay loop, especially on the survivor end, which is sit there mindlessly holding left click on a gen or your teammate to heal them or a chest to open it. That is basically all survivors are required to do the majority of the game. And then killers have to sit there and try and stop them from doing that, which is a much harder task while they have tons of tools at their disposal to stop the killer. So overall, the actual core gameplay loop is at a point where, because survivors are becoming so strong again, that it becomes very, very miserable for the killers as well. And the survivors, if they lose because they know how powerful they are equally just as upset.
And you want to know what's crazy about this? Is that it almost makes playing the game like gambling. You have a good match, you feel like you've won the lottery, and then you roll the dice and you get a shit match and you're like, oh my God.
Mistake number 9, not nerfing the nurse already.
Yeah.
The nurse is a bit of a problematic killer.
Yeah.
She often shows up at the top of every tier list for being an S tier, very, very strong killer. The developers cut her some slack because statistically she often doesn't perform so well. In fact, because she is difficult to play and needs to be played in a very specific way.
It's so goofy.
It's pretty common to see her at the bottom of the kill rate list.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't do super well in the hands of beginners. So on average,
Of
she
course
doesn't
not.
really kill a lot, and the devs cut her some slack because of that. And choices in Dead by Daylight.
A ton. And it's not only that, but they can use the excuse that Dead by Daylight isn't just pay to win because you could just lock in nurse and win the majority of your games if you're even decent at it. It is a shameless business practice, and she needs to be nerfed bad.
time you make a map, you need to make sure that you put enough walls to make sure that survivors can run everywhere. If there is line of sight, a lot of killers get really strong, but Nurse in particular gets completely unstoppable.
Right.
Having to change maps around her is not such a big deal, but the real big problem, in my
It definitely
opinion,
can be. So another big issue I currently have with DBD, well, I've had for a long time, that they didn't quite touch on, is I believe behaviors monetization practices are just completely immoral. They require you to not only buy the game, but then you have to buy access to all the other content they release along with it. And then they charge obscene amounts of money for some of the skins in the game. So microtransactions on top of gating content behind a paywall of a game that you've already purchased to own is the most outdated shit I've ever seen from any game company at this point. And there's other bad game companies, don't get me wrong. But the worst part about all this is that not only will you buy the game or buy a certain character for the power that you really like or the perks that they come with that you really like, then they'll just, as soon as they're, got all their money from the new DLC release, they just immediately nerf the perk right after, or they immediately nerf the killer right after, so that they're nothing close to what they were on the release, but you bought it, you gave them their money, and then they're happy with that. They don't care if you're happy after. They just, anytime they can reach into your pockets, they do. And they showed that when they tried to set up the NFTs. They really did. Anyway, there's just a ton of problems with this company from the top down. And it's definitely not one I'll be supporting anytime soon. And so what I'm going to be doing is moving on to a lot of League of Legends and Teamfight Tactics content. I actually have a really fun League video dropping tomorrow if anybody's interested. But I just wanted to give you guys a heads up. If you are still subscribed to this channel, I will tell you right now, there's a 90% chance I am done with DBD content for good. And I really, really appreciate all the support you've given me throughout the years. And I really hope some of my videos could help you guys and help you on your DBD journey back then. But this game's just not for me anymore. I'm going to be moving on to other stuff and putting a lot of effort into it. So if you guys would want to come along for the ride, I would so love to have you. But that's going to do it for this one, guys. And I hope you enjoyed the ride of DBD. I hope you guys are having a great time with whatever you're doing. And I'll catch you in the next one.